But welcome, everybody. Welcome this afternoon to the Understanding Stress and the Role of Inner Wellness webinar. I am Rebecca Saunders-Jones, and I am the Head of Operations at Future You. I'm joined by Alex Hepworth in our marketing team, and obviously Suhail Mirza will be leading us through the next hour of this webinar. Suhail is an inner wellness coach and is also a best-selling author, and has been delivering inner wellness webinars across the NHS and social care landscape for many years. He is a director at New Cross Healthcare and also a non-exec director at Future You. And his work in inner wellness has also been nominated for a parliamentary award in the UK. So, we are really, really grateful for Suhail to be here and to talk to us today all around inner wellness and the role that it plays in understanding stress. So I'll hand over to Suhail in a minute, but Alex, are there any kind of housekeeping things you'd like to go through at this point?
Hi everybody. Just to say, we will be encouraging audience participation via the chat function. So to find your chat, you just need to hover at the bottom of your screen and you should see the little chat bubble come up, and then the window will come up when you click on that. So feel free to add any comments in the chat there. And if everybody could just stay on mute, we're a big group. So if you're able to keep any questions or comments to the chat, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Great. I guess it's over to me. So thank you for that, Alex. Thanks very much, Rebecca. Welcome, everybody. I think, as Rebecca mentioned, it's work that I've been doing for quite a while. It's actually today, I think, it's the last day of Stress Awareness Month, isn't it? From memory. And it doesn't have to be the last day that we focus on this. And supporting people through their well-being and dealing with stress has been something that we at Future You have been really dedicated to doing for a long while. If we can click onto the next slide, please, Alex, just want to touch base what we're going to cover in this webinar. A bit of a review on, or a focus on, what the concept of worry and stress is, and actually the approach. This is an inclusive inner wellness approach. What does that mean? And then some actual steps, so hopefully we can take some actions together with some simple steps, and not necessarily easy, simple steps that can make a difference to you in terms of how you're coping with stress, etc. And this is not coming from a theoretical perspective. This is based on my own journey from a place where actually I've dealt with quite a lot of stress on a regular basis. I got used to it. I thought it was a default position that was there, that's something you just had to cope with. And then actually, when it became too extreme, I decided to take some steps, investigate, and see what could be done as a difference. So just looking at the next slide, if we may, just to give an overview here, there's some statistics there that show that we are actually, as it says, living in stressful times. It's affecting a significant group of people across the country, and in fact globally. And Rebecca mentioned the work that we've done with the NHS as well as social care in supporting wellness. Rebecca, just very briefly, I thought it'd be interesting to mention a number of NHS trusts have invited their workforce to actually participate and take advantage of modules that we make available to people for free.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So Future You has a wealth of modules on our platform and on our app for you to access for free, all sorts of health and social care related training modules. So if you haven't registered at all yet, then please do. You can download it from the App Store or via our website. You'll register and you can get access to all of the different content, and it includes a number of wellness related content as well. So go and have a look after this if you'd like to.
Great. Just very briefly, I'd be interested to see if people want to share, you don't have to, about some of the emotions maybe that you're feeling that you want to have less of, stress maybe being one of them. I'm just going to share something for me that I think still focuses a lot here, and that's overwhelm. That's a big emotion that I sometimes feel there's just so much happening. privately, personally, professionally, and that then can lead to a place where we're getting feeling stress. And stress is very natural. I think the first thing we need to bear in mind, it's a natural reaction to the vicissitudes of life. The World Health Organization has different definitions. They focus it really on the idea that it's a reaction against a really challenging time. But I think small amounts of stress, if it means it's a call to action, can actually be positive. So the goal of this webinar is to help you to have fewer and less intense the emotions that you don't want to have, particularly stress, particularly fear, worry, anxiety, and more of the emotions that you do want, maybe a sense of abundance and love and connection. And if you have a voice in the head that can be very critical, these steps today are meant to quieten that down quite significantly. And the approach that I took that led me to this was I was faced with a very challenging situations in my own emotional life. I had a betrayal in my marriage, and I was worried about my daughter who was facing some really stressful situations. And I wanted something more than just positive thinking. And I went around the world and put together practices from all over the world, providing there were evidence back that could support you whatever life brought. Because sometimes life is going to be really difficult and really challenging, and we can't just think our way out of that. So this is what the approach that we're taking. If we can go to the next slide, please. And it's called Inclusive Inner Wellness. And it talks about the cultivation of our mind, body, and spirit, and focuses on love as the most powerful force that we can use for leadership in our own lives. This has been used, actually, this particular approach has been used by people as far range as the US Army, with groups in the field, and also to actually moving forward in clinical settings, in a broad array of settings. So this is the approach that we're taking. And the core of all of this comes through a revolution that's taken place within psychology over the last few decades. If we go to the next slide, just to share that briefly. The first century of psychology really focused on pathology, why people acted in what's called deviant ways. There's been a revolution in the last 30 years, the science of wellness. People have been studying actually what makes people flourish, happy. What can we do with that? There's also been a greater acceptance of multicultural psychology. It's not just the Western model. What about the world? What approaches does it take? What do different cultures take? What about the psychology of spirit, something that connects us all in terms of oneness, purpose? It doesn't have to be religious. It can be completely secular. So all of this leads to this more holistic approach. And there's a couple of academics there, if we just go back to the next slide, whose work I've used, and who I think are well worth looking at. Professor Dr. Lisa Miller. Even despair can lead to an awareness and an expansion of the way we feel. And Rupert Sheldrake talks about these steps now being the subject of greater scientific inquiry. But what's the key message in all of this? The key message for me is that you, each of us, deserve self-love healthfully, self-acceptance, the freedom to be authentic, irrespective of our titles, our gender, our race, all of these things. We deserve it. And that's what inclusive inner wellness, that's the frame from which we come. Because often we think there's a default setting that actually we've got stress coming to us, it's somehow part of life. It is, but self-love and acceptance is also something, according to the principles we're sharing here, that we are all deserving of. If we go to the next slide, please, Alex. So it's all of these things. What I mean by mental wellness, emotions, how we control our feelings is incredibly important. The way we think. Are we fearful? Are we wondering what people are thinking about us? How do we quieten that down? How do we connect socially? So it's mind, body, and spirit. And I put all of this together. If we click to the next slide, please, Alex, just to give the background, into a model called the wisdom model. And we help people go through each of these steps to find a place where actually whatever's happening, something we can control, something we can't control, we can always find a place of self-acceptance, self-love, freedom, authenticity. Because to the extent that we're authentically ourselves, and we feel safe enough to be that way, our chance of living a life with acceptable levels of stress and worry, which are natural because life changes, is far greater. And that's the point that we want to focus on. Again, going back to some of the stuff that we've done here, Rebecca, I wanted to touch upon. Future You has made this a very central part of it, and the modules, we've had thousands of people that have gone through, and again, I'll wait for you to say it rather than me, the feedback and the difference that is made to people going at their own pace has been significant.
Yes, absolutely. So we collect feedback from our learners after they've completed courses, and we receive really high scores from feedback, and people really value the fact that they can take it at their own pace and do it in their own time, on their own devices, in the comfort of their own home, and really learn things to help them in their careers and also personally. So yes, we collect learner feedback, and it's really great to read.
Yeah, and just to focus on that, I was speaking today actually with two of the trusts which have asked us to come back and share more of the insights and the webinars. So what we wanted the session today to be was experiential, to give you some really a chance to take part in some of the steps rather than just us sharing them, because we can do that together, and also hear from people who maybe try these steps, what works, what doesn't work. I'm going to make two promises when we now before we go into these steps. Everything I share, as I mentioned, is experiential. It's something that has helped me move from a place of sometimes fearfulness, overwhelmed, stress, to a place of far more acceptance of the vicissitudes of life and much more sense of abundance of resources within me. So it's based actually on experience. And secondly, I will tell the truth. Some of the steps are going to be more challenging and demanding. This is not a here's 5 things in 2 seconds that are going to transform everything within 2 days. That's not how I've never come across anybody that can do that. If you can, let me know. But what I do promise is that all of these things have worked. They work for me and all the people that we've actually shared them with over the past few years, whether it's healthcare or not. So I'd like to go to the first step, if I may, and just touch upon this. This is to help us dealing with stress and that worry and anxiety. Gratitude. So the principles of traditional wisdom, principles of positive psychology, you've been studying the science of wellness over the last 2-3 decades, tell us that to the extent that we can inculcate a sense of gratitude on a regular basis, we are far less likely to feel that stress, anxiety, and worry that becomes debilitating. So how do we do that? What does that mean? Because it's easy to say, and sometimes life can be really tough, and how are we going to make this happen? I don't feel like being grateful. Let's keep this simple. Linda saying, love the picture. It's a great picture. It's a great big animal fan, and we're grateful that we've got beautiful animals in the world around us. So the big stuff and small stuff. What do I mean by that? And why is language so important? Because what we say to ourselves in here, the greatest tyranny sometimes we'll face is the one that's in here. If people have experienced that, I certainly have. That tyranny, to overthrow that, requires a change of language that goes on inside. That might be going on in your head right now. What's it saying? Is it empowering? Is it helping us? Is it admonishing us? It's a constant battle. We have to weigh it in our favor. Gratitude helps with that. So the first exercise that I do, that I recommend to anybody for 3 minutes every morning, is to think of the big stuff, the things. If we just click the first point, please, Alex, just the first one. What are the big things that have impacted your life that will make a huge, huge difference to you that you can be grateful for now? I want to share a few things. It'd be interesting if others people want to share as well. So I'm going to put the memory of my great-grandfather, who I was lucky enough to spend a few months in time with. He was 101 when he passed away. And every day I still give gratitude for him. He's long past, of course. The sacrifice that my mother made as a de facto single parent, bringing me up in very difficult, and my siblings in very difficult circumstances. Those 2 people, I make a big, Rachel's mentioned her family that she gives, or clearly a huge amount of gratitude. Claire has talked about her children. And I think that's you, is it, Alex? It's saying future you here. I don't know who's who that is. It says, my speech and drama teacher at school who gave me confidence. So I wonder who that teacher was. You probably remember them by name and face. Rosie's talked about family and dogs. How many dogs do you have, Rosie? It's moved me because we recently lost our 17 years and 4 months old Chihuahua, and miss him every day. Last month. Sheila, if that's the right pronunciation. Family. My Hetty's talked about my mum. Other things. Health and home is something that I give gratitude for every single day. My family, my Springer Spaniel family and friends. I give gratitude that I live in a country that's broadly peaceful, compared to other parts of the world. So 3 minutes in the morning. Lauren's talked about granddad. Give gratitude, big faith in my faith. Julie's talked about your faith in the Almighty. You give gratitude for something I also give gratitude for. And Lauren's mentioned her daughter. So there's a number of things that people, perhaps, I don't know if you do this daily. What I found helpful when I was going through the hardest time, the really most challenging situation where everything was upside down. I thought I was going to lose everything. And it was causing me a huge amount. I still found a few minutes of solace, remembering these people, remembering the fact that I was healthy, I had friends. And I do that every day. I say it out loud. So I literally say the names of those people who have passed, those people who are here, and I picture them, particularly if they've gone. I can see their faces. I can see them now. And it fills my heart. It makes me feel grateful. A lot of things that haven't gone great. I've been homeless twice in my life, not street homeless, but homeless. But I've been able to remember, actually, I was a recipient of love, still am. And that makes a big difference. So Oluyole has given, I've just got your surname, if that's your name, forgive me, because you've come up as y.oluyole. So I hope I pronounced that correctly. And you're giving gratitude for life. That's a brilliant 4-letter word, right? The fact that we are alive, the fact that we are here. Giovanna has talked about grateful about everything in my life: health, house, family, friends, food, work. Amazing. 3 minutes, start your day, do that. See what happens over time. Second point is the small stuff. And this is to think about, in addition, for 3 minutes, things that have happened in the past 24 hours. Now, you've had a bad 24 hours. Everyone remember Sunday and how bad the weather was. I mean, seriously, I don't let the weather affect me, but man, that was miserable. But what were the good things that have happened? What are the good things in the last 24 hours? Smaller things, inverted commas, that you can be grateful for. So I'm going to say my daughter got her options for her GCSEs. So she got that. I'm super. My daughter and her partner got engaged yesterday. Wow. Okay, that's not a small thing. That's massive. Congratulations, Rosie, to you and the family. Beautiful thing to be grateful for. That's really a big thing. I'm gonna write this one down. The last 24 hours, I had to use the M25. If any of you have ever used the M25, you will know that it can be really difficult, and it was smooth. Claire's, I've moved up from a HCA to a support worker. Fabulous. Julie, the sunshine, the last 24 hours. Lauren, I had a full night's sleep. My little one didn't wake me up. How old's your little one? You don't have to tell us, but I remember those days. Rachel, my dog's jumping up me when I walk through the door from work really made me happy as coming home to an empty home. 18 months, bless her. My daughter's 14 years old. I can always embarrass her saying, I wish you were back. I wish you were a baby. Still got her pictures and look at them. So Rachel, that's amazing. And isn't that something that can actually easily be taken for granted? And if we have animals and you're an animal lover, they give love unconditionally, right, Rachel? The dogs will come and love you. We've got 2 cats, 2 rabbits. So what the principle here is, we have around us, hopefully most of us, all of us, many things that happen on a daily basis or with regularity that actually make us very rich within. and spending a few minutes each day to remember them. In my notebook, I tend to write those down, and over very and far from neat writing, I write 12 things down per day. I'd recommend concentrate on 3 that have happened. At the end of the week, you'll have 21 items for which you're grateful. It gives us a sense of abundance. It gives us actually, there's more than we have around us than we realize. So let's focus on that. Thank you. Let's go to the next point and next step if we can. And this is contemplation. And what I mean by here is meditation or prayer. It can be either one of those things. And if we click the points here, please, Alex, the focus is a chance to be fully present, to unlock our thoughts and our imagination, look inside. There's some books there that have which highlight the fact that this practice of contemplation, meditation, whatever you want to call it, has been now practiced here in the West for over 50 years. I think the relaxation response came from Herbert Benson, who's a cardiologist at Harvard 50 years ago. I think it was 1974. And Sam Harris is, we talked earlier about mental, physical, social, and spiritual well-being. And what I mean by spiritual well-being is connection, meaning, and purpose. It doesn't have to be religious. It can be, because prayer might be something that's important for you. Sam Harris does the meditation. He's a virulent atheist, and his book it talks about spirituality without religion. So whatever suits you. The goal is to find a few minutes each day. A few minutes each day. 3. Start with 3 if you haven't done it, where you can connect to yourself. Now we're going to describe this and we'll have a bit of a go and see. Now 3 minutes doesn't sound like a long time. It will be if you've never tried it. What are the benefits and what are the outcomes? And all we're going to do is breathe. We're literally, the goal here is 3 minutes. You sit down, focus on something if you want to, an icon. You can look at the garden if you have access to nature, or you can shut your eyes and just be fully present. And all we're doing is breathing in, inhale, exhale, and we're going to just focus. And what will happen is you'll hear a lot of noise, or see a lot of pictures. Sometimes you'll hear your voice saying some really far from positive things, if my experience is anything to go by. And what happens over time, you realize actually a lot of those things that you hear as noise, background noise, is not based in reality. It's based in fear. They haven't happened, or they're things from way in the past. And actually sometimes they're very, very critical of ourselves for reasons that we don't understand, past failings, etc. And over time you realize that actually they don't represent reality in many cases. And secondly, you'll get a distance. You realize the voice in your head is not you. The inclusive inner wellness approach talks about the fact that there's an essence within us, because you're the observer. You're seeing, you're hearing, you're feeling everything that's going past. And there's an essence within us, which I think is always brave and beautiful, but we sometimes forget that because it's covered up on all these things. Has anyone here tried meditation? This is probably interesting. Has anyone tried? I'm going to go over to you, Alex, just briefly, because I think yoga, fully present, and that meditative state is something that's you're passionate about.
Yes, I like to practice yoga, and as part of yoga at the beginning of classes, we often will spend some time working on our breathing. And yeah, I find it super valuable. I can't always relax. I can't always shut out the chatter in my mind, but yeah, I really appreciate taking that time in my day to just focus on the breath, calm down. It's really helpful.
And have you done that? Do you do that specified times of day? Is it, or is it just it just varies according to timetable?
So it depends. So I prefer to practice yoga in the mornings, but that's certainly not every day. But even sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed at my desk, or whilst traveling, I'll just take a few moments to close my eyes and do some breathing, counting in for a count of 4, holding, and then breathing out for a count of 4. I find that can really, really help to just quieten the mind and reduce stress.
Perfect, thank you. Claire's talked about done guided meditation a few times. Was that with somebody, or was it with an app? Again, if you have time to answer, by all means, because that's, people like to be guided sometimes, which is great. Rachel said, I've tried yoga. Julie, yes, I meditate every day, and the fear which used to haunt me, I now see as false evidence appearing real. It's a brilliant acrostic for fear, false evidence appearing real. Linda's talked about sometimes meditate. Is that Linda? Yes, that's Linda, forgive me. So thank you for sharing that. And Giovanna said, meditation never worked for me. I've tried many times and I failed. I slept instead. Okay, we'll come back to that. And we've got Chidubem, if that's the right pronunciation, Chidubem. When the activities waiting for me are so much, it becomes difficult to make time for meditation. And I think as Alex mentioned, and that is going to sometimes overwhelm us. And that's why I'm recommending, if you can, 3 minutes, just start. If you haven't done it, start with 3 minutes. And Giovanna, if you've never had it work for you, the best thing is to try in the morning for 3 minutes. Out of bed, sitting in somewhere, sitting ideally works really, really well. And we're going to try this exercise in a moment. I just want to look at some of the questions, comments that people have made. And Chidubem, yes, if you can just, even if I used to find that, because I was really, really super busy, we're all incredibly busy, and waking up slightly earlier, it's hard because if your habit's not there, oh, I'm already waking up early. Now, if your shift work means that's not going to work, that's fine. But whatever the start of the day is, I think that is a time where a few minutes, and that's why we want to focus on just a few minutes, 3 minutes at the beginning of the day. And there is no failure. Please be aware of that. There's no failure. The goal is not enlightenment, as it says there. If you do find it, please contact me because I want to know what it looks like. The goal is to be fully present. As Alex said, if you're able to be fully present over time, it just turns the tap of the noise off around us. And it makes a big difference if you try it for a few days. Now, I'm going to, if we go to the next slide, let's try this together. Just for a short while. Wherever you are, if you're driving, please don't do it. Do this. If you're seated comfortably, let's all close our eyes if we can. You'll have to ignore my voice because normally you wouldn't have this, my voice, guiding you through this. But if we can just quieten down, focus our mind, or if we've got something that you want to look at, let's do that. It's a picture or an icon for 3 minutes, or just a minute or two, actually, in this case. Shut our eyes and just breathe. Focus on breathing in, nice deep breath, and then breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Just get the rhythm going at your pace that works for you. Keeping the eyes closed, make a note, but do not fight with whatever is coming into your mind, other than my voice, of course. Pictures might appear for some people. There might be a voice in the head saying, I'm too busy to do this. I've tried this, this hasn't worked. But just be in this moment where you are the center of your world and attention. Breathe in. Breathe out. Feel your body, relax your shoulders. The tension in your legs, if you're sitting in a certain way, just become more relaxed. Your face muscles. Just keep breathing. Keep observing. Whatever comes up, you can make a note of it later. Another deep breath. That's fine. Thank you for taking part in that. It's as simple as doing that, because meditation can become very complex. There's mantras, there's a whole philosophy. Some of these books behind me are real, and meditation's provenance comes from the East, and there's thousands of years of history around it. We don't need to know all of that. We can if we want to. The key is being fully present to who you truly are inside. Alex, just one other quick question. You say you do it sometimes at the desk. There's no fixed time, I guess. I guess over a period of time, you have practiced it and become more comfortable with the idea of the fully present exercise.
Yes, definitely. It took me a really long time though. I used to find I remember talking to my yoga teacher when I was doing Shavasana at the end of a yoga class, and I just couldn't get it because there was just so many things going on in my head, and I kept sort of realizing that I was not thinking about not thinking, if that makes sense. And then it was a kind of vicious cycle. And she explained to me that it was completely normal and natural for that to happen, and actually just acknowledge it is fine. So yeah, so I'm still on a journey with it, but I definitely feel it's valuable for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key thing there, as you've said there, it will take time. And if I'm going to be sitting here in front of you, what I have my mind completely clear and totally present, no. But it's the chatter is far less intense and it's less unkind. And that was the thing that made a big difference for me over time. It's taken time, I agree. Julie's talked about prayer, utilizing prayer. I don't know if that's a congregational or individual, whether you do that daily, silent prayer. There's so many. I just wanted to raise that because a lot of people talk about meditation. I've used contemplation as a neutral word, but prayer, if people have faith, is a very powerful way. I was introduced to silent prayer by a Jesuit scholar who's unfortunately passed away, a love-filled, beautiful human being who introduced me to the concept of silent prayer, which has been around for 1,000 years, more than that, in the Eastern Christian Church and more broadly. And it was very powerful, very beautiful. Just checking the other messages that I can see. Chidubem has talked about, at first I felt blank, like nothing was happening. Then I started to see a green field. Okay, interesting. That's great. And I think the key thing there is just to embrace the images, and your heart talks to you. Looking to yourself. Oluyole, forgive me if I'm using your surname because it just comes up as y.oluyole, which I hope I'm pronouncing. Sing hymns, especially old childhood ones. Brilliant. So again, it's about being in the moment, something that touches your heart. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. So these are 2 steps we've talked about. Gratitude, 3 minutes a day. And that's for the big stuff and the small stuff. And 3 minutes where we're in contemplation. And it can be throughout the day, but we're recommending start. Right, next subject is self-forgiveness. It's an F word we sometimes avoid. I told you that I would speak the truth always when sharing these things. This was a big journey for me because I felt in my voice, in my head for so many years, remembrances of where I'd failed, where I had not lived up to expectations. Anyone have any family members that sometimes remind us of our shortcomings, even occasionally? Okay, definitely. And this voice can be the one that can be like a heavy bag that you're carrying up a hill. And the important thing is that we deserve kindness to ourselves. This is not about forgiveness of other people who may have harmed us. That is a really powerful mechanism and pathway, but it's not what we're talking about today. That requires a lot more complexity and moving parts. So the injunction here is find time to forgive yourself, to say sorry out loud to what I did for things that maybe come to haunt you on a regular basis. We have a reason there's a 24-hour cycle, a brand new day, a brand new season. These are symbolic things that we can put the past behind us, or at least make sure it's something that is fertile for our growth in the future. And being self-kind is really important. That can be for some big things. It can be for small stuff. If we just click the next point, please, Alex. Professor Everett Worthington is somebody whose work I have followed and admired tremendously. He teaches, a professor of psychology, and has made a study of forgiveness in his entire life. And he unfortunately had to face some tremendous tragedy. Someone actually murdered his mother and family. But he talks about self-forgiveness as well, and how it's really important to lighten that load that we have in our heart. Forgive yourself for the small things. Anyone here occasionally a bit short-tempered, or have a bit of road rage, or find they've acted in a tense-filled manner because they're just focused on whatever they may be, and sometimes it can be a little bit unkind. This is natural and sometimes happens. Forgiveness is really, really important, and spend a few minutes each day. So Rachel said, I often get road rage. Okay, And it depends on where you're driving. And we all say, you know what, we can forgive ourselves for it is the key thing. That's the most important thing. We're human. We can get stressed. We have an ego which has to be grazed. We can't be completely, we're not saints. Some of us might end up aspiring to be, but we're not. So let's absolutely focus on the fact, I'm sorry. I say it out loud. To err is human, to forgive is divine. I completely believe that, Julian. We can begin with forgiving ourselves, right? That's how we start. So spend a minute or two or three, however long it takes. Forgive yourself for any shortcomings, the voice in the head, get it quiet. And for everyday things, I do that regularly. I'll say sorry to other people, but I'll just say sorry out loud. Anyone else has tried forgiveness as an exercise? I felt it really powerful to me, and it made a big difference in terms of self-esteem and self-acceptance. I think, Julie, you've summarized it really, really powerfully there. So thank you for that. Okay, next step. Let's walk into the next step. We've just conscious of time, so we've got Q&A coming. Now, the language that we use is so important. And self-authenticity is key. I said this at the beginning. We are all deserving, I believe, of love and connection and significance and importance, but it starts from our heart. Now, when can we be most authentic? Often, when we don't worry about our labels or our titles or our responsibilities. There are times when we can truly be authentic. And they may come in our private moments. Some of us here might sing out loud. Now, I do that. I would never do it in front of anyone else. My voice is appalling. Some of us might dance when the music takes us. I was invited by my wife the other day. We were working to put some music. I said, oh, let's just have a dance for 2 minutes. Why not? Where do you go to a place where it's truly you? Is it books that you read? Do they inspire you? Is it film? Is it poetry? Alex, I think I'm just going to talk about your love of art history, these type of things. Is that something that still stirs you or moves you in terms of where you can actually forget everything else and just be truly immersed in something that touches your soul?
I think definitely, yeah, finding the beauty in everything, certainly art, but also in nature. When I get out walking the dog in the morning, just even this morning, I was looking at a tree that is opposite my house, and I've just never really looked at it before. And today I just realized, wow, I think that's been there for hundreds of years for a start, which is just incredible. And also just looking up at it and seeing all the branches and the leaves that are coming out. Yeah, it was just really wonderful and quite overwhelming in a really nice way.
No, that's fabulous. So let's do some examples. If we just click a point here, if we just click at the slide, which films, songs, do you watch a film over and over again? Do you look at a clip of a TV program or listen to a song over and over? What's your go-to that people do over and over again? I'll just be really, for me, I love Good Will Hunting as a film. I look at clips on that on YouTube. Anything to do with Muhammad Ali on YouTube. And obviously you can see there ABBA as music. So where do we go? Where do you go where you can truly be yourself, even if it's for a few minutes? And the recommendation here, as Alex just talked about, is take appreciation of what something means to you. That makes a big difference to your emotions. That can make you feel absolutely joyous. And sometimes it can help you touch the deeper emotions in your life. Because when we're free to express ourselves, the chances of feeling stressed and overwhelmed reduce. And it doesn't have to be all the time. It can be something that actually is part of our DNA. It's something that we can do. Claire's talked about a playlist of songs that I've liked, each with a different emotional connection and memory. Well, that would have taken some time to put together, which I applaud you. And I've got a favored list in my car, and sometimes I'll play a single excerpt of a film, and that will make a big difference. And others, it's actually the whole song that will make a difference. And it can also be sad or more deeper, I think I've mentioned A Star Is Born. Has anyone seen that film with Lady Gaga? I watched that 4 times. I was going through a particular period in my life, and it's very visceral emotionally, and I found it very, very moving, and it brought all of that out from my heart. Yes, it made me cry at times, but I was being authentic. I was being real. Now, if you want to make for laughs, for me, it's Only Fools and Horses. On my clips, that probably shows my age a little bit, but I will watch clips and excerpts of that. Motivational speeches, and I read poetry, and I read spiritual literature. Even for a few minutes, it makes a big difference. It opens my heart and makes a big difference. I do this in the morning, the start of the day, for 3 minutes. All of these exercises are 3 minutes to yourself, because you deserve that and have the opportunity to touch the truth in yourself. It doesn't take long. We're always scrolling on things. We're always seeing stimuli around us, and it makes a tremendous difference. So I hope that we can see that. I hope it will make a difference. It'd be interesting if you can make it part of a regular part of life. The other thing that's same with you, Alex, animals. I live in the country, so actually if I'm driving late at night, I sometimes stop. The headlights are on, it probably disturbs them in the field, but I like watching the rabbits in the evening. They tend to run in the field, and you see them running free. It just makes me feel just joyous, just for those few minutes or few seconds. It doesn't take a long time to do. So find that space on a daily basis, see what the effect has over time. Okay, let's go to the next point quickly. Visualization. So all the studies show now from positive psychology, looking ahead, where we want to achieve something. We've all achieved, wherever you are now, things that you've accomplished sometimes were simply an idea and sometimes challenging. And the literature is, if we can visualize that on a regular basis, it helps us to be motivated. It helps us to have insights on a regular basis. So here's a couple of key things that to bear in mind. This is for 3 minutes. And what I do, I visualize a year ahead and 5 years ahead. A year and 3 years, 1 and 3. So that's, for me, makes sense. For you, it might be 1 month, 6 months. It could be longer. Whatever suits you. We click the points at the bottom, please. How many times have we imagined the worst things? Anyone here had fears and worries about the future? So we're already good at this. Well, we tend to visualize what we don't want. Let's start visualizing the things that we do want. They can make a tremendous difference in our lives, and life can be transformed. And if we click the next point, please, Alex. This is usually in sports psychology. It comes out very, really strong. The people who accomplish tend to do this as a practice. Kobe Bryant was a great basketball player, and he was on record as saying that he completed many games prior to the games actually taking place, because he had played that shot a million times in his head. We can do this. Anyone here do visualizations or vision boards or set their goals as practices? Just be interesting. Has that worked for you? 3 minutes is the plan, and I would recommend that. So those are the steps that we've shared. Try those for 3 minutes in the morning together, and over a period of time, they will make a tremendous difference. I'd wanted to finish the last 10 minutes, if I may, to look a bit closely at emotions. So if we can move to the next slide, please, Alex. And I've got a list here of emotions that people have shared in recent months from webinars delivered to the NHS, social care. Which emotions have been most prominent was the question. And these are the ones that have come up as empowering emotions. And there's a whole full list there. I think, Rebecca, we've probably seen in the work that we've done with so many people in social care, probably people expressing a whole range of every single one of these over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of them and more have probably been mentioned in the chats on these webinars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted a couple of quick things staying on this slide, was that the fact that there are some comments there around anger, indignation. These can be empowering emotions. So honor yourself. The principle is we lead with love, but honor all emotions. Some of these emotions, when they manifest, you are often a call to action. We need to sometimes be frustrated to be able to get out of where we are. We needed anger and indignation to have the civil rights movement in the United States, when people who were African Americans absolutely couldn't even go to the same schools, couldn't have the same amenities, voting rights, etc. Someone had enough of an indignation, said this can't carry on. Me Too, Black Lives Matter, these societal movements, whether it's the environment, whatever it is, someone has to get to a point. So they're actually a place for all of these emotions. But I want to talk about emotions generally, because the quality of our life is the quality of the emotion we're feeling. The steps we've shared hopefully will make a big difference to you over time. But what are emotions? Sometimes they are deeply ingrained and they might be require medical involvement. That's a different thing. Here we're talking about our everyday emotions. My default emotions for much of my life was one of a tragic hero, where I expected things to go wrong. I didn't trust people, and I was always wondering with a sense of suspicion, and that eventually weighed down on me. But I just thought this was a natural thing. But is it? How much control do we have over our emotions? I want, if I may, to invite Rebecca just very briefly, just to engage in a little bit of an exercise with me. Normally it would take a lot longer, but I just wanted to think about this. Rebecca, if I may, and normally we would see your face here, so I'm going to ask you to come on screen in a second. What I would like you to do, just for a few seconds, is to think of, if you can shut your eyes, you don't need to tell us what it is, think of something that's recently been a cause of angst or annoyance, nothing too traumatic, or that's cause a disempowering emotion. If you can come on screen with a hello and just go there for a few seconds.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully everyone can see me.
Okay, that's great. And I want you to think about whatever that event is or events are, and the people and etc., and how you felt there. I just want to keep there. And what I'm then going to ask you to do is to count to 3, and I want you to think actually about your time or your best experience when you were in the string trio as a cellist some years ago. Are you there? You can speak?
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Now, it wasn't clear, but you could see Rebecca's face change from the experience of what she was thinking about to that period when she was involved as a cellist, and that was her career, her pathway, and that brought a big smile on your face. Did you experience a very different feeling when those two different events were in your head, Rebecca?
Yes, absolutely. I think I would encourage everyone to try this, because it's really amazing how quickly your whole body and your whole face and your whole sort of mindset changes, and it happens absolutely instantly. So yeah, it's a really powerful exercise to do.
And you did it, in seconds. And the reason why that is our emotions in the main are a product of 3 things. If you can go to the next slide, please, Alex. They're the product of what we focus on, what we're actually thinking about, the language in our head, what do things mean, and our physiology, the muscles in our face, the smile, our physical body. So we saw Rebecca from a serious look, because she was thinking about whatever she was thinking. But then suddenly because I happen to know a little bit about Rebecca, obviously she was a gifted musician, and she had this career there, and that must have brought joy, because music brings so much joy to so many people. We can do that. If we click the bottom point, is we have to honor the higher intent behind every emotion, and we have far greater sovereignty than we realize. Right now, all of us could focus on conflicts around the world and become very, very, upset. Clearly, all of us. I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on those things, because things need to be addressed in whatever things in life. We don't avoid challenges. However, we can focus on things that are empowering, uplifting, joyous, that make us connect to ourselves in our own truth. And what they mean to us is a choice that we can hold. How we use our body, if we smile, if we exercise, if we walk, as Alex talked about, looking at a tree for the first time we haven't noticed. This comes within our sphere of influence, and actually far more within our control. I want to finish off, if I may, with a quick set of exercises I would invite everyone to take part in. I can't see you on the screen, but if I can invite you before we start the first one, again, if you're not driving and you're not involved looking after anybody else, please, if you close your eyes and just breathe calmly, and firstly, think of a beautiful place or item. We click that on there, please, Alex. Think of something that to you brings joy, beauty. In Alex's case, it might be that tree again. What's it for you? Is it a country that you visited? Is it a place from memory and childhood? Is it a beautiful sculpture, wonderful building? Think of something beautiful. Who were you there with? What other people were there? What was the weather like? What was your feeling? Try to remember the sights and the sounds and the smells, and let that wash into your heart, into your eyes, and the eyes in your heart. Okay. Second thing, we're going to think of a beautiful animal that we love. I think we've got some animal lovers here. We've had people mention, I think, 2 dogs that they had. Now, for me, my favorite animal is a sloth. Don't ask me why. Nothing to do with Ice Age, the film. But think of that animal. Maybe it's a pet that you have now. Maybe it's a pet you used to have. Maybe you just like magnificent animals that you've seen on TV or on trips around the world or here in the UK. Think of that animal. What makes you love that animal? What's beautiful about that animal? And finally, keeping our eyes closed, let's think about a beautiful person. Someone famous, someone you know, maybe yourself. Now, these glimpse exercises are meant to be exactly that, a glimpse. At any time of the day, we can stop, think of things that truly touch our heart. As Rebecca demonstrated, we have the sovereignty to move that swiftly, what we focus on and how we feel. It comes as a surprise. Can it really be that simple? It can. But not all the time, every time, but enough. We deserve it. If we click to the next point, please, just conscious of the time. This is a quote from a book that I wrote actually some years ago, which charted my journey on this whole wellness piece. I do believe that there is one light and that we each refract it in individuated, beautiful ways. These steps and the wellness model that I've talked about help us to scrape away some of the rust and the shadows that we allow and sometimes life imposes upon us. Thank you very much, everybody. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to leave it over to Alex to take us through. This is obviously as part of a CPD. I've been really grateful for people sharing their insights and thoughts and ideas. I still love someone saying, singing very loud with my daughter in the car. It brings us both together. We get so much from it. I think that sums up that simple things sometimes can bring us more beauty and joy than we realize. And they're at the end of our fingertips and at the end of a hug, at the end of a smile. Thank you all. Really appreciate your time. Over to you, Alex, in the few minutes we've got. If people have got questions, still got 5 minutes. And obviously there's some housekeeping that we've got to do.
Thank you, Suhail. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and expertise with us. Yes, as Suhail mentioned, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and Suhail will have a look at those in just a minute. But in the meantime, as Suhail mentioned, this webinar is CPD accredited, which means that you are now able to download a certificate as evidence of the progress that you've made towards your development today. And that will count as a CPD credit. So you can either scan the QR code that you can see on your screen, or I've just added a link into the chat where you can, which you can click if you're on your mobile, and that will take you through to a page where you just need to add your name and email address, and then you'll be able to download your certificate. And if we go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you can, as you can see there, Suhail's email address is on the screen if you would like to contact him directly. I've just added that into the chat too. You will find lots more health, well-being and wellness related content over on our website, on the blog. The link is there. As I mentioned before, or Rebecca mentioned rather, we have a series of inner wellness modules which you can access via the Future You app. You can download the Future You app and access all of our content there for free. A lot of the content is CPD accredited. We have over 100 courses. And finally, I just wanted to let everybody know about the next webinar that we will be hosting in May. You may know that there is a new level 2 adult social care certificate qualification that's being launched in the summer. So this is for anybody who works in adult social care in England and is age 19 or over. So I've just shared a link. So if you're interested in learning more about the qualification that we intend to offer, subject to Ofqual and Skills for Care approval, you can sign up, register for that webinar at the link I've just shared. I think that's everything from me. Back over to you, Suhail, if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, more than happy to answer them. If time is not with you on that, obviously Alex has shared these things. I've got a question, I think, from Mercy. How do you meditate when you're stressed in the workplace? It's a difficult thing to do. Obviously, it depends on your work and the pressures. But as we talked about earlier, if you can start your day with some of those exercises we've shared today, that will help. But if you get overwhelmed in that particular time when you're working, we've got obviously Alex has talked about some of her practices in taking a few minutes in each day to step out of all of that stress in a break, etc. Similarly, when we've just now shared these glimpse exercises, Mercy, we can take a few minutes to ourselves to have that breathing exercise or to think about something that's beautiful, something that's inspiring. It won't solve all the challenges, but it makes all the heaviness and the tension of stress, it can reduce it, which I think is the key point, because that gives us the resources. So it can be done throughout the day. It's not easy when work is very stressful, but making time for ourselves, I think, is a really powerful investment. Claire's got a question there, I think, as well. I think, Alex, I'm leaving to you on that one, I think. Oh, you've done it, sorry. And if anybody's got any further questions as they arise, we often get this. Obviously, Alex has shared my email. I promise I will reply. I may not do it immediately just to manage expectations, but certainly I will reply if you do. Thank you, Julie, Linda. Thank you for your comments. Rebecca, Alex and I really enjoy sharing these insights. We find it enriching to hear from people who are practicing them. And that's why Future You as an organization, we've really decided to dedicate a lot of resource around here to offer and support people in their inner wellness journeys.